This is me. I think it's apparent that the history of film begins with me.
Excusez-moi, cheval.
Oui, monsieur?
We think that the history of cinema begins with us, the Lumière Brothers.
Well, I think that you forgot about the man who lights up your houses every night. I also have something in common with films.
Houston, we got a problem.
You might be surprised, but the history of film, especially the early beginning, is truly fascinating. The Lumière Brothers, Thomas Alva Edison and Stallion, what do they all have in common with the history of film? Let's find out. Welcome to the first episode of Motion Picture and Technology Sensations. It really starts with a horse. In 1872, Leland Stanford, founder of Stanford University, placed a $25,000 bet with his friends to prove theory that a horse is off the ground during a full gallop. The challenge was that this fleeting moment was too brief to be captured by the human eye. Stanford didn't give up. Instead, he hired engineers and also met with a photographer named Eadweard Muybridge. Little did they know that their collaboration would change history forever, not only in understanding a horse locomotion, but also in paving the way for the future of motion pictures. Muybridge approached the task with enthusiasm, but his initial attempts were unconvincing. The photos were fuzzy and blurry, failing to clearly show the horse off the ground. Why was that? What were the technological limitations? To understand, we need to go back even further, to the very beginnings of photography. It's important to note that photography had existed for less than 50 years at the time. As with many inventions, it's difficult to pinpoint who truly invented photography, as the earliest attempts were unconvincing to the general public. It is believed, however, that the earliest photograph was taken in 1826 by Joseph Niépce from the window of his studio. The 8x10-inch zinc plate was coated with Syrian asphalt, which served as light-sensitive material. It's said that the exposure time for this photograph ranged from 8 hours to even several days. Despite this groundbreaking achievement, Niépce struggled to attract attention and interest. However, the advancement of photographic technology was only just beginning. Various image capturing techniques emerged and camera technology evolved. To prove Stanford's theory, Muybridge and Stanford also contributed to the development of photographic technology. On June 15, 1878, Muybridge and Stanford held a press conference at the Palo Alto Stock Farm racetrack. A reflective white wall was painted and the ground was sprinkled with lime to create contrast between the horse and the background. The plan was not to use a single camera, but 12 arranged side by side. With a state-of-the-art trigger mechanism, they were able to capture the sequence they had been working toward for several years. The race began with just one horse. 12 razor-sharp photos were taken, quickly developed and displayed to the public. From the very beginning it was clear, a horse in full gallop is truly off the ground, and nobody could deny that. News of Muybridge and Stanford's success quickly spread worldwide. But this was also a phenomenal achievement in photography that paved the way for the future of motion picture. Muybridge overcame the previous technological limitations. Not only did he capture rapidly moving animal, but he also photographed the successive phases of its movement. And best of all, Leland Stanford won his $25,000 bet.
Koniec Polski, powinieneś zainteresować się tym koniem. Radzę ci, naprawdę.
Jak pan typował, jak pan przewidział, że ten koń wygra?
Co? To trzeba mieć jak ona tam? Wacek.
Intuicję.
O, jasne, intuicję.
A kolejność! Jak pan przewidział kolejność?
Kolejność? 7, bo 7 dzień tygodnia. 1, bo pierwszy raz jestem na wyścigach. A 4, bo koń ma 4 nogi.
Muybridge's accomplishments in motion photography paved the way for film. Many others tried to compile their own sequences into a device capable of creating the illusion of motion, including Muybridge himself. While Muybridge's horse sequences were later compiled into a film, it's important to note that he needed separate camera for each frame. It was Louis Le Prince who first captured in 1888 2-second sequence with just a single lens camera. The Randey Garden scene consists of just 20 frames, taken on Eastman Kodak photographic film. The story of this brilliant inventor is shrouded in mystery. Le Prince vanished under strange circumstances in 1890 while traveling by train from Dijon to Paris, just before he was scheduled to present his invention in the United States. As mentioned earlier, Eadweard Muybridge was also working on a device that could display photographs in motion. He came up with a fascinating idea, but it wasn't this invention that ultimately shaped the future of motion pictures. It was the lecture he gave in 1888 in New Jersey, near the laboratory of the famous inventor Thomas Alva Edison. Edison, along with his employee William Dixon, attended the lecture. Muybridge presented the Zoopraxiscope, a device that projected sequential images thrown around the edge of a glass disc, creating the illusion of motion. 2 days later, Muybridge and Edison met at Edison's lab to discuss the possibility of combining the Zoopraxiscope with Edison's phonograph, a system that would synchronize sound and images. However, Muybridge was not interested in such collaboration. Edison had to start from scratch, or more clearly, his team, because he assigned William Dixon to lead the whole project. Their focus was on the projecting technology, but moreover Edison wanted to combine it with synchronized sound. Sounds ambitious? In 1888, definitely. The first device, projector, was named the Kinetoscope. It didn't resemble at all the cinema projector we know today. It was a wooden box that was meant to be viewed by one person through a peephole viewer window. The innovative motion picture device used a flexible film strip for displaying short films. Edison's team recognized the potential of George Eastman's flexible film strip, a groundbreaking innovation that solved a major challenge they had faced since Muybridge's invention of the Zoopraxiscope. The Zoopraxiscope vertical wheel had a limited surface area for consecutive images, restricting the length of motion sequences. With the introduction of flexible film, the length of a film was no longer constrained. It could be now as long as the strip itself. However, this advancement introduced a new problem. The illusion of motion appeared too blurry because the film strip moved continuously at a constant speed. At first glance, an old film projector might seem simple, as if the film strip moves smoothly like a car wheel or a bicycle chain, but in reality it doesn't. Both film projectors and cameras operate with an intermittent movement. This rapid stop-and-go motion combined with the sequential frames creates the illusion of smooth and continuous movement. Ever wondered why film strips have all those perforations? It was Edison's team that introduced the idea of single-sided perforations, allowing the mechanism to precisely grab and momentarily halt the strip, ensuring that light could be projected onto each individual frame before advancing to the next. Edison unveiled Kinetoscope in 1893 in Brooklyn, New York. Through a small hole in a wooden box, people could watch several films made by Dixon that were produced in Edison's filmmaking studio called Black Maria, which was also the first film studio in the United States. Watching a film through a peep was of course entertaining, but watching it on the theater side screen turned out to be much more preferred by the audience. Thomas Edison, when asked about possibility to create such projector for broader audience, said, "If we make this screen machine, it will spoil everything. We are making these peep show machines and selling a lot of them at a good profit. Let's not kill the goose that lays the golden egg." On July 16, 1894, Kinetoscope was demonstrated publicly for the first time in Paris, where father of Lumière Brothers may have seen it for the first time. The birth of cinema was about to take place. Antoine Lumière, inspired by what he saw, strongly urged his sons, "This is what you should do." The Lumière brothers acquired Edison's system and began to study it. They concluded that it needed several improvements, but the most crucial innovation was the one Edison resisted the most: the projector from the broader audience, and this turned out to be the key to the birth of cinema. Lumière quickly recognized the flaws and set out to build their own device. Not just one device, but 3 devices: a camera, a film developer, and a projector, all ingeniously combined into one single machine.
Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it
the Cinematograph, a device that seamlessly integrated all 3 essential components into a single compact box. It was a groundbreaking invention, refining the flaws that Edison and others had yet to overcome. December 28, 1895 marks the official birth of cinema. On this day, the Lumière brothers held first public screening, showcasing 10 short films made with their groundbreaking cinematograph. One of them was the most known, The Arrival of a Train at La Ciotat Station. The audience was captivated, witnessing a film projection like never before. Surprisingly, despite the rapid development of the cinematograph, the Lumière brothers famously stated, "Cinema is an invention without a future." They even refused to sell their camera to other filmmakers, including Georges Méliès. Instead, they shifted their focus to color photography, developing their own color process known as Autochrome Lumière. Ironically, they were also surprised that audiences favored black and white films and saw little demand for color in cinema at the time. The turn of 19th and 20th century was a turbulent time for film industry in the US, especially considering that Hollywood was still an unknown village out west. It was during this period that Edison revealed his true face, but also coincidentally contributed to the rise of Hollywood. Edison quickly recognized that peep show machines were becoming obsolete, and he swiftly shifted his focus to creating a system for screening films to broader theater audiences. At the same time, tensions between Edison and his longtime collaborator, William Dickson, began to surface. The conflict arose primarily because Edison didn't inform Dickson about his plans, which ultimately led Dickson, the true inventor of the kinetoscope, to leave and start his own company. Edison made big profits from his improved kinematograph. The kinetoscope was already dead, and public wanted to go for film projections in small theaters called Nickelodeons. The demand for short films was so high that the film studios were producing them hundreds a year. Edison saw a lucrative opportunity and began acquiring film patents, eventually forming a motion picture patent company in 1908 in collaboration with other major film companies. His goal was clear: to control the entire film industry and protect his patents. Edison claimed exclusive rights to film cameras and demanded royalties from all filmmakers and distributors who used his technology, and then pursued anyone who dared to compete or not pay royalties, filing lawsuits against them to maintain his monopoly. What was even more menacing were the trust agents, hired-hand forces who were attacking independent filmmakers. What would happen if a filmmaker refused to pay Edison's royalties?
Hey, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Faced with Edison's patent wars and the challenge of inconsistent sunny weather needed for proper lighting, filmmakers and distributors began seeking a solution. They found it on the West Coast in California. Instead of choosing the already developed Los Angeles, they opted for a small village nearby, Hollywood. The land was affordable, and its proximity to the Mexican border provided the safety they needed. The motion picture patent company's influence couldn't reach them there, and after all, it quickly dissolved. This marked the beginning of Hollywood's rise. This moment marks the beginning of Hollywood's golden age. From now on, everything has changed. Major film studios emerged, including first animation studios like Walt Disney, and technology continued to evolve. One of these new technologies were computer graphics. The story behind this is even more fascinating, but that's a story for another episodes. See you soon in the next episodes of Motion Picture and Technology Sensations.